How do you get rid of a personality cult? Well, there's the Romanian way, by physically removing the subject of the personality cult. Then there is the most of the rest of the ex-Soviet Union way, which is through progressive reforms and progressively tearing down the artifacts that construct that respective personality cult. And then there is the Uzbek way. Let's discuss. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Freedom Alternative. So obviously I overcame the dysfunctionalities in Kazakhstan, since now I'm already in Uzbekistan. In fact, I'm in Samarkand, so the third city of the list of the Gulag tour. But anyway, not about the dysfunctionalities of public transport is what I wanted to discuss, about the personality cult. I hope this video doesn't come out half in Russian by the end of it, because, well, whether you like it or not, you have to speak a lot of Russian in this part of the world. So, on the list of the things to do throughout this little tour of ours was the, well, essentially the propaganda museum of the first president of the Uzbekistan Republic. As some of you may know, in 2019, well, this country appeared on my radar. This is my first visit here, so that's why I have a lot of things to say about it. During the year 2017 or 2018, this country appeared on my radar, not only because it was one of the countries I had never been into before, but also because I was seeing that things started to change slightly for the better. And by slightly for the better, I mean you would be allowed to get in and, well, essentially videotape what you want and take a look without a handler and things like that, and also not risk getting yourself into a gulag for doing so. Right as this country was emerging on my map in 2018, it was also semi-officially announced that the founder of the nation, Islom Karimov, is well, ill, and well, as a replacer is looked for. And unexpectedly, much faster than anyone expected, a year later he died, and he was replaced by essentially a nerd. The current president was not even among the top 10 favorites to take over, so he was replaced by someone that nobody knew. One of the first things that changed is that suddenly the pictures of the current president just disappeared from everywhere. One Norwegian author that routinely writes about the former Soviet Union, that I also read her books. I just bought her latest book in Russian from Kazakhstan. She was saying that in 2019 that, well, it's a good sign. Nobody knows how the new president looks like, so it's probably a good sign. Well, here we are 3 years later after this new president took over. Next year he's due to face, well, elections. We'll see how that goes, but that's a discussion for the next several months. And as I was saying, there was on our list to go on the propaganda museum of the first president. And the official website of the Ministry of Tourism also said that the museum still exists, and it has a certain entrance fee and whatnot. And I was like, okay, fine, of course we're gonna go there. The capital city, Tashkent, is a nightmare to navigate. It's a nightmare to navigate by car, it's a nightmare to navigate by public transport, and it's an uber nightmare to navigate on foot. I was about to say na peshkom. In any event. But, you know, 2 hours later of going around the huge parks of Tashkent, eventually found the area in the building. Well, it's probably here. Asked several police officers, and they kept on saying, well, why would you want to go there? But whatever, it's in that direction. Finally found the park and the palace, as you can see it. And surprise, surprise, this is the museum. Yes, it's an empty building. As late as April or even May 2022, there are photos from that museum. Well, in July 2022, when I finally got there, it's an empty building. So, I asked the police officers, well, where the hell is the museum? There's all the indications point here. And they're like, well, it's closed. And, okay, fine, when is it going to be open again? Never. So it was quietly pulled the plug on it. And that's how this country dealt with the legacy of the personality cult of the first president. Just quietly pulled the plug on it. Nobody knows that the museum has been, well, essentially cancelled. Nobody knows that slowly most of the monuments erected either to the collective leadership of the country or specifically to the first president are also being slowly turned down, demolished. And also slowly more and more of the artifacts that deal with the legacy of the first president are just quietly being shut down. Nobody knows about it. I mean, even the official website doesn't say that this is taking place. So yeah, that's another way, I guess, the third known way to deal with the personality, with the legacy of a personality cult. Why is this important? Well, for starters, so we're in 2022, less than 10 years ago, this country was almost as closed as North Korea. And the two differences being that one, you could leave the country, albeit a little bit difficult, but you could leave the country. There were plenty of Uzbek people working either in Russia or in the West. And I guess the second difference would be that the level of censorship wasn't that high as the DPRK. I mean, the internet is still a thing here. It's terrible. It's a very slow speed, and Twitter almost never works. But nevertheless, it exists, as opposed to DPRK, where of course it doesn't exist. So I guess these would be the only two differences. Other than that, it was more or less like DPRK. Oh yeah, you wouldn't necessarily get a handler to go around the country, as opposed to Turkmenistan, where you actually need a handler, just like in DPRK, and that's why I'm not going to Turkmenistan anytime soon. But other than these two differences, okay, three without a handler too. I was about to say bez handler. Anyway. Without these three differences, other than that, it was essentially a DPRK. As you can see in the footage taken from the central area of Tashkent, there were plenty of surveillance posts. Now almost all of them are either closed or abandoned or due to be demolished and so on. But less than 10 years ago, all of these were functional. So all of this surveillance state was fully functional and fully active against its own citizens. And the transformations that this country has been through in just 4 years or 5 years or maybe 6, again, the last 2 years of the first president were triggered the change, and after his death, all of the changes at once got accelerated. The economy is much freer, the standard of living has increased significantly. Of course, it's still a long way to go to until it will be called a developed country, but nevertheless, it's significantly better than several years ago, at least compared not just with the economic data, which of course can be manipulated, but also compared to the footage, the pictures that I've seen from 10 years ago or 15 years ago. It's a significant improvement in virtually all aspects of life. But the reason this is important is because there are other countries that are also going through or will soon go through a similar process of dealing with the legacy of a personality cult. And I'm thinking here, of course, at DPRK and Turkmenistan, and yes, Russia. So, learning from the model of Uzbekistan can be helpful to and for dealing with similar situations that will occur or are already occurring, because also Turkmenistan is slowly transitioning towards a post-personality cult society. So, yeah, I guess that will be it for this little update. I have no idea whether I'll be able to even upload this video while I'm still in Uzbekistan. As I said, one huge downside of this country is that the internet is absolutely haram. It's worse than Germany, if you can believe it. It's not only very slow, but also you have to jump through multiple hoops just to be able to connect to the internet. So there's that. But you know, worst case scenario, you'll be watching this when I'm already in Kyrgyzstan. So yeah, the Gulag tour continues. Cheers.